Hello and welcome to Decorative. My name is Mary and this is Wes. And tonight is episode 64. We're talking about how much does it weigh?
A lot.
No, not at all. So the question of the night, how much does it weigh? And the topic for tonight's complete episode is decorative wraps. Because anytime that I have ever posted a wrap, and I'm sure other people have as well, there are a bunch of people that are constantly telling you it weighs too much. I don't ever put those on there. It hinders performance. I'm after the lightest possible rod and so many other negative things. If you could imagine just a 1,000 bubbles popping up over the last 15 years of me posting wraps, anything that you could possibly imagine I have heard and have seen and had to argue with said people. And I gave up arguing because facts are facts and I know what they are.
No, and as long as the wrap is put to a proportional size to the rod, it does not hinder performance.
And also has to be put in the correct location.
Now, with that, a wrap going from the real seat to the stripper guide is going to hinder performance.
Depends on the blank. Depends on the rod.
Every time I see it, it's a bass rod. Just
yeah, yeah. That kills me. Bass rods or fly rods that have them that are that long.
Yeah, and
that's not good, guys.
I'll leave that for another topic. How much does it weigh?
Well, the biggest thing to take into consideration is we are talking about thread and we are talking about coats of epoxy, right?
Right. With CP.
With color preserver. For me, some people don't use color preserver, so that, you know, that's a little bit of itty bitty amount of added weight. But the biggest thing with the placement of your wraps, before we even move on to how much it weighs, is that it needs to fit the build. And this is one thing Wes and I were joking about, but we're not joking about.
We're dead serious.
That bass rods that have it running from the foregrip all the way to the stripper, that's too long. First and foremost, you're fighting taper on that. Some of these blanks are dropping quickly. You're having to super elongate whenever you get towards the stripper. But the other thing is bass rods in general need to be lightweight. You need to feel the vibrations and you don't need to slow down the reaction time. And as we've said in previous episodes regarding too long a guide wraps or anything like that, anywhere we place thread and epoxy is going to slow down the rod. It's going to cause negative effects on performance. Now, if that's the end goal, that's the end goal. But most people are just putting this on there because it's pretty. It looks awesome to run it all the way to the stripper. But the problem is that the rod's bending in that area. And the rod bending in that area and fighting the thread and the epoxy, and it's going to cause premature cracks. It's going to cause reaction time issues. The other one, the biggest other oops that you could possibly say is fly rods. I don't put wraps on fly rods unless they're like 8 weights and up. And even some 8 weights I won't do it on. And even if I do put them on an 8 weight because the customer requested, it's like 4 or 5 inches, little short ones.
Mm-hmm.
You get into the 9, the 10s. Obviously, yes, they can handle them. But still, it's just not a traditional kind of thing to put on there. And that's where the custom rod builder has to be able to educate said customer, hey, you can't do that. A bass rod I just sent out, she was under the impression that I was going to marble the rod from the foregrip. Actually, it was the real seat hood because it didn't have a foregrip on it, all the way to the tip. And when I showed her the little short section that I had marbled in the acceptable area, because I think it was only like 6 inches.
And it was only a medium action.
I was like, I can't. Now we could have painted it, you know, but we're not marbling it. And I explained to her what would happen if I had done that, and she's like, oh, makes perfect sense, understand. And that's what we have to do as rod builders when it comes to our customers, because yeah, you want it to look awesome when you're buying a custom rod. You're paying somebody to do something for you, but 9 times out of 10 the customers don't know what these design aspects are going to do if they marbled the whole rod or we wrapped all the way from the foregrip to the stripper. It's going to cause issues. We don't do that. Okay, we have to educate as we go. I build mostly bass rods. I agree, would totally change the action. Yeah, like it's just you just can't do that. You do little short ones, and preferably in the split if that's the best, or depending on the rod, depends on how long you can go about doing it. Obviously, the big boat rod I'm working on, where I put that wrap is not going to really change how that rod bends. It's not bending for the, it bends out here. It doesn't really bend too much back here. If it's bending back here, we got a problem. That thing's supposed to pull up tanks out of the ocean. You know what I'm saying? So that's not a big deal. And I think that's where a lot of people mess up. They see the offshore rods, the boat rods, or those shark rods, where they do have the wraps that are running the whole rear length of the rod. And they think, oh, I could do that on
or Chris marbling the entire rod, but they don't realize that's a Seeker XXX heavy.
It doesn't.
Or a 3x5. It's not affected by it.
Every single blank, every single build has its own characteristics, and you can't take something that you do on an offshore rod and throw it on a bass rod and think it's going to perform like it's supposed to, because it's just not. Exactly, John. Functional first, artistic second, and form follows function. 100%. That's where the Decorative Studio's little slogan, where art meets function, that's where it comes from. Everything we do, it has to function. We're not building wall hangers, and don't ask me to build a wall hanger and wrap guides on it, because I'm just going to be like, I'm going to give you a broomstick, okay? I don't have a handle. I don't have a wrap.
Fancy.
I don't have to wrap any guides, okay? Like, I'm not doing that, guys. But before we get into how much does it weigh, I do want to take a minute. I want to thank our sponsors, Mudhole Foundation Outdoor Group. We love you. We're going to see you in a few weeks. I'm very excited. ICRB's like 3 weeks away, a little less. Getting prepped for that. It's going to be a real fun time, and also looking forward to the advanced classes in the fall. That's going to be fun, and also going to ICAST with you guys again this year. Super pumped.
But we won't be going to Foley.
We will not be going to Foley this year, so I'm so sorry. It's so sad, but we just can't make it in August. It's just not good with the beginning of the school year. But do not forget that when you're ordering from Mudhole, to use the discount code MChristy10 to save 10% off of American Tackle, Gaho Rail Seats, Pro Products, CRB, and MHX. All right, so how much does it weigh?
Why are you yelling again?
Would you stop? I'm talking. I'm excited about this topic. Quit yelling at me.
I'm not yelling.
So how much does it weigh? I have proof from a video, and I am sorry, and it was from TikTok. I had to download it, and TikTok slapped its copyright all over it, so ignore the bouncing around of TikTok all over it. But I weighed some of my wraps. Take a listen.
How many of you guys have heard, I'm not going to put a decorative wrap on my rod. I don't want one on my rod because it's going to add too much weight. Let me show you how much these wraps actually weigh. This is one wrap it released off of the blank as a complete finger trap. 2 grams. I also have this collection of cutoffs. Fun fact, inverse is always super cool. Dropping it on the scale, it says 0. 2 grams. Another one of the chorus wraps. 2 grams. This one was a wrap I did on PVC. Inverse. Real fun. That one weighs 3 grams. The spider. Fun inverse. 2 grams. I actually did this one ICAST last year, and I ruined it by spilling dye on it. 2 grams. Multi-axis chevron. Inverse is pretty wicked. 2 grams. Scales. That one weighs 3 grams. Probably one of my favorite patterns. That's what the inverse looks like. 2 grams. Inverse on that one's pretty wicked too. 2 grams. If we're looking at ounces, I'll try the one that was the biggest. 0.15 ounces, 0.05 ounces, 0.05 ounces, 0.1 ounce, 1 ounce, 0.05, 0.05, 0.1, 0.1, 0.05. So there you go. Roughly somewhere between 6 and 8 inches of a wrap, depending on how wide and how big it is. It's going to be somewhere between 2 to 5 grams or 0.05 to 0.15 ounces.
There's the math. There's the science. There's the actual weights of what the thread on these 6 to 8 inch wraps actually weighed. Now, yes, there's only one coat of color preserver on there, and I cut them off because 90% of those that you saw in that video were course wraps where I was teaching how to do the decorative wrap. And if you've been around for long enough, you know that if I'm teaching somebody how to do a wrap, I'm never going to do that exact same wrap for a customer. So I cut it off and I can just keep it to apparently weigh out randomly throughout the years to prove how much thread weighs. Eventually, they'll be turned into jewelry. We just had to stop that journey a couple years ago because I got too busy. A lot of people are going to go, well, that's just the thread. That's just the color preserver. You got to take into account the actual epoxy. But in the grand scheme of things, how much epoxy are we actually applying per coat?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be the biggest thing that we're also going to talk about later in this video, because thank you, Chris Adams from Mudhole with the Mudhole Journal. If you guys aren't familiar with that, he actually wrote an entire article about it with the science behind his. He weighed everything and he did it out. We'll discuss that in a few minutes. But what this proves is that the thread does not really weigh that much. Like, it really doesn't. All of those are closed wraps. They were all finished, all cut before we tied them off. Like that one wrap where I'd spilled the dye on it, that was tied off. I spilled dye on it. I ruined it. I had to redo it again. And actually never built that rod. It's somewhere over there in the pile of things I have wrapped and just never got back around to. So, is what it is. But that's how much thread weighs. Like, it's not a lot, you know. But before we get into Chris's stuff, let's talk about the product of the night, which is
Tie forged air guides. So there has already been a double foot set. Now there are a casting set and a spinning set. These are stainless stamped rings, basically, so that you're not going to have the issue of the actual eyelets falling out. They are braid resistant. You're not going to lose a whole bunch of casting distance or anything like that with them. But the weight savings between these and conventional guides is pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we use them a lot on a lot of our builds too. They're very, very nice. Very, very nice.
If you haven't tried them, you need to try a set.
And you can also get a discount using the discount code. 10% off using mChristy10. Woohoo! So, looking at those wraps that I had, Michael, the smaller ones, the ones that were like this wide, were for smaller blanks. They were probably, if I have to guess, they were looking at something that's between an 8 to 9 millimeter in diameter blank. Obviously, that big large one, I told you I wrapped on PVC. That was 3/4 inch PVC, I think. It was a 1/2 inch or 3/4, I can't remember. And I expected that one to weigh a lot more than the smaller one, but it actually weighed only a gram more. I think all of those were weighing between 2 grams to 3 grams, or between 0.1 ounce to 0.05 ounces. And I don't know about you, but I can't tell the difference in my hand of 0.05 ounces versus 0.1. So it's not a significant difference in that aspect. Ever use embroidery thread as a wrap? You know, thick thread used to do bracelets back in the day. Wonder if it works. I know what you're talking about, and I have not. And I would be wary of it, but definitely try it because that has a tendency to fuzz a little bit. The embroidery thread I use is Madeira, and that is made specifically to go through the sergers at high speed, and it's coated in silicone. So it doesn't fray and it doesn't get fuzzy unless you beat it up while you're packing it, and have a tendency to do that. But for just that regular embroidery thread that's like for friendship bracelets and stuff, test it, see what works, what happens with it. I'm not entirely sure of the content of the thread or how strong it is, that kind of thing, but you'd have to just kind of wrap it on the scrap and see what happens. It may fuzz up, it may not do so hot. It may be fine. I don't know. I haven't tried it. So the biggest question when we come out of this and we were like, okay, well, Mary weighed the wraps, cool. How much is the epoxy adding to it? This is where I enter in. Thank you, Chris Adams, for writing this article, because I literally just threw a whole bunch of people straight to that article when they start asking me questions about it. And here is some screenshots. So if you guys have not actually gone on Mudhole's website and gone to their journal, they talk about all kinds of things. And this one in particular was the weight of how much a decorative wrap adds, okay? He starts off with showing you the materials that he's going to use. Size B thread, he's using a size A metallic, and he's also using a flat braid. And the blank itself, just the raw blank, nothing else on it, is weighing in at 1.544 ounces. Okay, he's also going to be putting Pro Coat on it. All right, so this is the beginning of the experiment. Then he goes on, he's talking about how much the rod weighed here, and versus what the website says it was 1.53 ounces, so he's within like 14 thousandths of the thing, so he's happy with it. Cool. And that's just that little excerpt saying this is what I weighed it at. Now, he puts a 9-inch wrap on it, and he ties it off. This is just the wrap. It is open, and it's tied off, and it weighs in at 1.583 ounces. So we've barely even added any difference between the two. I mean,
0.039.
yeah, almost 0.4,
Mm-hmm.
0.04 of an ounce.
0.04.
So the next step is he goes in depth, but he is going to also add epoxy to it, and he actually weighs out each coat that he puts on there.
Mm-hmm.
This is just what the wrap looked like before he put the epoxy on it. He puts 2 coats of epoxy. That's what's sitting on it right now. And it weighs in at 1.673 ounces at this point. 2 coats of epoxy, the wrap, and that's it. Next photo is the 3rd and final coat that he put on it. And the entire thing weighs in at
1.7 ounces even.
Yep, 1.7 ounces even. So he's only added a total of like, what was it? I had to write it down.
1.544.
No.
So
0.156 of an ounce to the rod
mm-hmm.
was added with 3 coats of epoxy and a 9-inch open wrap.
Almost 4.5 grams.
Almost. It was like 4.4225 and like 7 other numbers behind it. So, yes, his wrap is open. I can't imagine closing that wrap is going to double that amount. But even if it did, 8 grams,
it wouldn't even add.
It wouldn't even add that much, you know. I actually weighed Steve Harvey's.
Mm-hmm.
I did not put the pictures in or the video of it in there. The blanks with the chevrons, so the ones that had the Sukatus on them. So they were 6.9 ounces after the Sukatus were installed to the blank, okay? Once the wrap, 8-axis chevron, done with metallic, this was the final weight that also had the guides and everything on it. It weighed 7.7 ounces.
0.8.
I added 0.8 ounces to the blank with the wrap, the epoxy, the guides, all of that, on all the guide wraps.
Really not that much.
It's not that much. It really isn't. And then it becomes like one of these, like, can you tell the difference in your hand? The difference of that, you know, like obviously if somebody drops like an 1/8 ounce in your hand, you're going to be able to feel the difference, you know. But if it's spread out through this one rod and it's balanced the way it's supposed to be, you're not going to be able to tell the difference on it. Alan, do people marble on black EVA grips?
You can.
You can.
Michael Ward's done it before.
Well,
cut it out and put paint in it.
He hasn't marbled on it. He made he cut a cavity and put resin in the cavity, which that's been done. There's no reason why you couldn't. However, EVA is very porous, so it's going to try to soak up some stuff. There is a way to eliminate that, and you can go check out the cosplayer stuff that they do. They paint EVA. They use the yoga mats and things to make their armor and all kinds of stuff that they use. I looked into this a long time ago. They have to put, what's that gray? It's a primer that they have to paint it. Plastidip. They put Plastidip on it first, and then they can do whatever they want to it. Those type of threads are cotton blend and fray. Okay, thank you, David. So that answers the friendship bracelet embroidery thread. Now, what kind of epoxy does it matter if you use high build or the other epoxy? Well, in theory, if you're using high build versus
you're just going to do less
you're going to do less coats, it's probably going to be...
It'll end up being about the same.
I wouldn't think that they would weigh much different between the two. I mean, you probably, if you're really good at it, you could get away with just doing 1 coat of high build versus 3 of the regular. But I think it's probably going to still weigh the same-ish. I'm curious when a similar length of marbling would weigh compared to a finished epoxy wrap at the same length. I'm thinking it would be a minimal difference. So marbling is a little bit more. I do remember that I weighed the bass rods back when last year at the beginning of the year when I had some that had wraps on them, and I had 3 that were wraps with EVA grips and 3 that had cork and marbling on them. And there was a difference. The ones with the marbling on them were heavier, but it wasn't drastic.
It is heavier, but it's not like detrimental.
You know, but then again, little short sections, depends on how much epoxy and stuff that you're adding to it, because you can put a lot on. It's going to, you know, drift and do some fun stuff, or funny stuff, but, you know, they are going to weigh a little bit more. The difference between the two, I don't know. I just know that and I don't have the videos to, I either took pictures or something, but I was trying to clean out my hard drive because my phone's getting overloaded with videos and photos, go figure, and some things got sacrificed. So I just know they weighed more. Is it necessary to seal EVA? If so, what is used? No, you don't seal EVA. There's no reason to at all. If it gets dirty, and guess what? It's going to get dirty. Just use a magic eraser to clean it while it's spinning if you want to. If you can't spin it because the guides are throwing it off, then take a toothbrush and some Dawn dish soap and just scrub it back to life. Works just fine. Biggest thing is just, you know, shower with it. Not really, but like rinse them off, like clean them. And if they get really feral, take them in the shower with you. If you're at the, you know, the beach, and take them in the stalls and wash them down with soap. Like they come right back. What about marbling the entire rod?
Only if it's 50-pound class or heavier.
You have to be specific to the blank. We don't want to marble like bass rods or fly rods from butt to tip. We don't want to do that. But like Wes said, the bigger ones, fine. Hydro dipping's different. Painting them is different. That's not adding any kind of weight hardly at all.
Tell Don to start marbling my rods.
Right? Mike says it 130 pound 10-foot blank.
Do it.
You can marble that one. It's just gonna be a pain to dry it. All right, before we start to go into anything else, we need to go ahead and get into the giveaway. And tonight's giveaway is a sparkling, brand new $25 gift card to Mudhole.
Yay!
Woohoo! This can be spent at Mudhole for whatever you want to buy. I currently own it, so I would just need to transfer it to you. So whoever wins tonight, I will need to get your information, and I will have to have your email so that it can be sent to you. Okay? Now, for those that are brand new tonight and have not been here before while we do this, the giveaway goes like this. Wes is going to ask a brilliantly challenging riddle tonight, and whoever's the first one to answer it in the chat will be the owner of this sparkling $25 gift card. Everybody get your thinking caps on, because when he asked me this,
Her brain shut down.
I just could not. So I apologize in advance, but really think it through.
How do you spell cow in 13 letters? How do you spell cow in 13 letters? And yes, I am referring to like the moo cow.
The COW cow. But how do you spell cow?
In 13 letters.
13 letters. So, congratulations, Duncan. Woohoo! I need your email. That's all I need from you. I don't have your email. That's the only thing I'm missing from your profile, apparently. I know your address, know everything else. I just don't know your email. So make sure you send me a message with the email, and I'll get it sent to you. We had some questions come in right before we were doing the giveaway. Opinion on the new ACM.
If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't.
What's ACM?
Air carbon mesh.
Oh.
I don't have a need for it personally yet, so I haven't tested it.
I think it's a good thing to be bringing new stuff to the market. I am kind of old school and like thread. However, I can see the draw and the excitement towards it. It's one of those things that for me personally, I'd have to test it before I was like, yeah, gonna hold for it. But I can see how the designs and, you know, the stuff would be appealing to some people. All right, so Michael was asking, so the whole point with smaller bass rods and smaller rods means smaller wraps.
Most of the time, yeah.
Most of the time. The simple, easy way to answer that is yes. You know, a small fly rod, a 3-weight, no wrap. Don't put a wrap on that. You know, 6-weight, not a wrap. No wraps. Bass rods.
Some 6 and 7s I'll do.
Some. You know, it really depends on the blank. But bass rods, little short ones, if you got a split grip, put it in split. There's no reason why you can't do anything back there. That's where all the backbone to the rod is. Wrapping up what we have just talked about tonight, wraps and epoxy just don't add enough weight for these people to argue with you about how it adds too much weight to the rod. It's negligible. honestly. And for anybody that is going to constantly say it's too much weight, they just have this mindset that, you know, we're dropping 5 pounds of whatever on it and it's just going to affect the function of the rod.
Anybody that's arguing that to that extent is not your customer.
And that's fine. And not everybody is going to want to wrap. If you start posting online or you put stuff up in a group and you get those people that are stuck in their heads about, well, that just adds too much weight, just ignore them. Just move on. Don't get in the back and forth with these people, because a lot of these people just love to be keyboard warriors and just have their opinion thrown out there, and they don't want to listen to reason. They don't care if the facts are hitting them slap in the face. So just let it go. Just know that it doesn't add that much weight.
I enjoy those people.
You like to do that. But the other thing is we also have to take this knowledge and we have to move forward with going, we can't place wraps all over the place. You know, like we can't run it the length of the rod. You don't want to run it the length of the rod. Anything that, when you're working on a decorative wrap, I don't care if it's a simple one or if it's something that's stupid intricate where it's got 20 boxes out or anything of that nature. When we're fighting a taper that goes from 20 millimeters and it drops to 15, a 5 millimeter drop in taper over a 10-inch section is a struggle to get it to pack and close tight, because you're going from it being really compact down here and then stretching out, and the tip has less area, so you have to pack this more than you would be packing the butt, and it's just a fight. There's, you know, and I tell people, I tell all my students, I tell anybody that takes any of my classes or listens to me talk about thread, like, don't do that to yourself, because you're going to end up sitting down wrapping for hours on end, getting frustrated, popping threads, not getting the results that you want because you're fighting the taper because you wanted it to be 12 inches or 10 inches, whatever I said. I think it was 10. But take it down to 8. Get rid of those last 3 millimeters that dropped in taper. Make it easier on yourself. It already takes a while to sit down and do these wraps. Don't make it aggravating. Don't kick yourself in the shin while you're doing it. Just make it easier on yourself. And don't run it all the way to the stripper. Stop doing that. It's too long. You always have...
Talking about complaining.
You always have 1 or 2 people. It doesn't matter what you do. You could just do the easiest, simplest, basic, beautiful rod, gorgeous, epoxy's gorgeous. Somebody's going to say something negative about it. What is your opinion on the casting or spinning rod with guide under wraps?
I'm going to ask you a question. Why do we put under wraps on casting guides, but no under wraps on spinning guides? Think about that before I answer your question. When you think that through, casting guides
Flex away from the rod.
flex away from the rod. Spinning guides flex into the rod.
The feet actually will, I mean, like if it's, I mean, they're going into the rod. Why is it not acceptable for us to put an under wrap under a spinning rod?
And then on top of that,
spinning guide,
where the blank is not wrapped, if you get down to a like true minute level, it doesn't stay like this when it bends. It goes like this.
It goes that way? Or...
No, it ovals.
Yeah, I know it ovals, but I thought it ovaled this way.
No,
Oh,
it ovals this way.
Oh, okay. I learned something new. I thought it ovaled kind of flat. But yeah.
It tends to oval that way. I'm of the belief that you really don't need under wraps for nothing.
I love this.
It's controversial, like, because anytime I've gotten into a debate with somebody, that's what I ask them. It's like, okay, why are we doing under wraps? Well, it protects the blank from the feet. Okay, why aren't you doing it on spinning guides?
Because that's
and
where
they go,
it needs more protection.
Shoot.
And it's like, that's what doesn't make sense. But you don't wrap them, right? And then we hardly ever have any dramas with the guides causing issues to the blank. So... And then on the bigger rods where they're like, you have to have an under wrap to keep the feet from rubbing and rubbing into the blank. And I'm like, how are they rubbing into the blank if the feet are flexing away from it? It makes no sense.
Well, it's pulling them down with the blank, but
the tips aren't, they're not, you know, those big guides, they're kind of, you know, like they're not going to flex with it. We proved that whenever we were doing the pressure test of how much a guide can handle.
The friction this way,
sure,
I can understand. But if we're talking about this way, is it really doing anything?
See, this is what keeps Wes and I up at night sometimes. These debates, because we both.
And it makes y'all think our same way.
Cross wrap PDF files. It shows the measurement up top for a closed wrap, but do you still measure out the rod and taper, or just the measurement on the PDF? All right, so I'm gonna be honest. I haven't used those PDFs in years. All right. I saw them. I think it's a great concept. More people were starting to do wraps because they understood how to do them. Bravo. Okay. However, those measurements, as far as I can understand, keep in mind I haven't looked at them in a few years, are the size of the actual pattern. So if this is your spider with the background that it has in that picture, that's how big that pattern is, right? It's not talking about measuring from pattern to pattern as far as I know. It may have changed over the years. I have no idea. But that was the last time I saw it. Those measurements were just how big the actual pattern was. So taking that, just that's how big that pattern is, you would still need to taper the patterns as they go down the blank because the blank's getting smaller. And all the taper does for the very simple, easiest, basic thing, the taper offset file. Anybody doing the math equation for the taper offset, I don't teach it because I just never could get it to work out the right way. But if your butt measurement is, I don't know, let's say it's 20 diameter, okay? 20 millimeters outer diameter, 20. And your tip measurement is 10. Guess what the taper does? Takes the 10 and puts it at the butt, and then takes the 20 and puts it at the tip. It flips it so that the patterns down here are closer and the patterns out here stretch out further to accommodate for the blank shrinking. What?
Instructions unclear. I wrapped the whole blank.
Right? And then it's 10.
You started talking about it, and my brain went, nope.
That's all it does. The taper just takes those measurements and flips them. Now, without a visual cue, it's very confusing. Numbers, you know, but that's all it's doing. I don't like to show it without visuals because it's very confusing. But yes, to get it to close, if you want it to close easily with less problems, you should definitely do it. However, obviously, there was people out there and people before taper became a thing that were doing it and just making it work. And if that's how you want to go about it, then by all means. But I like to make things easier on myself because I make everything else harder. So the way the rod bends and rubs against the blank.
I can understand it rubbing this way.
Yeah. Spinning rods, I use single foot guides so the underwrap looks funny, but I've asked the same question before.
Who said they have to see the underwrap?
The underwrap can be what I have been calling bumpers lately, where it's just sitting under the foot. You don't even have to see it.
Who said they have to see it?
They don't. Nobody has to see it. You don't have to know it's there. Playing devil's advocate, perhaps an underwrap slightly stiffens that portion of the blank so the feet don't flex as much. You guys are going to end up making me...
That depends on the blank.
You're going to make me have to do a test.
Typically, if you're wrapping an underwrap to begin with, it's a heavier blank to start out with. So is it actually bending and changing it at all because it's already a higher power and a heavier weight class?
Or are you just accommodating what it should be doing to begin
Or are
with?
you just following convention and saying it's a 50-pound class rod? It needs underwraps.
If I would follow the road that everybody has paved before me, I wouldn't be wrapping my guide wraps in all A for both layers.
Even on
those.
it's going to have A for the wraps.
Both. My under wraps will be all A. My first layer will be A, and my second layer will be A. And that comes from very, 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 very long time ago.
Standing right there.
Over there when our shop was on its... This is the third reset of how it looks. Back when we were babies, we were doing a test. We wrapped the same guide on rebar with size A thread and size C thread in the name of trying to figure out what size thread was stronger, because everybody's like, well, C's stronger because it's thicker and you can't break it, but you can break A. Well,
but the amount of revolutions in A versus C
makes it stronger.
It's the same, if not more.
It makes it stronger. But what we did was we wrapped this on rebar, and Wes and I both took turns jumping up and down on raw thread, not epoxy on it, because you know the thread holds the guide on there and then the epoxy keeps the thread safe and they're all bond together and they're one big happy family, right? Well, we took turns jumping up and down on this thing to see which ones we would break first on a live video. It's out there somewhere. I found it. I think I downloaded it. Guess what broke first?
The guide.
The guide failed before the thread did. The guide...
So much so that I about broke my arm.
The feet completely folded in on themselves. Now, jumping up and down, more force than either one of us weighed. We had to jump. Not a single guide is ever going to see that kind of force. It's spread throughout the rod. But that just tells you that the guide feet, if it was being pulled complete opposite, which it's never going to be in that situation, not real life situations, the guide feet would fail before the thread would. And that's without epoxy on it. So take that for what you want. Put it that way, I guess they don't have to see it. Really make someone think. They don't have to see the under wrap.
I'm good at that. I will question a lot.
What about doing triple wraps on guides?
I've never done it.
I don't see the point. I mean, I can understand if you're doing like that layering technique where like you've got one color that was your first layer, and then you start the second one a little bit further back, and that's your second color, and it ends early, and then like your third one's just a little baby section where you're just like doing trims or something. But I don't see the need to have a triple layered wrap on any rod. Or under wraps needed on a 50-pound class rod and up. I'm gonna be honest, I do them to be safe, but I don't have a boat or an ocean to go test it where I live. So if I move somewhere where I can have access to a boat and a rod, and I can test the hell out of it for a year, I'll get back to you on that. But right now I'm landlocked. I got some bass
Some 50
ponds.
pound, 50 to 100 pound catfish.
That's the catfish I could test it on, but they wouldn't like that blank.
I will still do it, but it's because I'm doing it to get the decorative aspect out of it.
I'm just being safe when I do mine. We did have one where we didn't do under wraps on, and it was a boat rod. It was on that Italian blank, the Predator one that we did, and it's fine.
It's been doing
It's living its dream, doing what it's supposed to.
Hadn't heard anything about it.
But the only reason why those now in that particular scenario, we had AB1 guides on that rod. So they had them short little bumpers under the feet. So, and you had to put those on there in order to get them raised up away from the blank so the epoxy wouldn't lock the articulating little legs, because those were the ones that do the little bendy show.
Do that again?
The bendy. The bendy. You like that? That's what they do. They will do that if you hold them in the right way. But that was to get them away from the epoxy so you wouldn't lock them up whenever you wrapped them that way. I had somebody else argue with me about epoxy cracking on rods too, and I was like, stop putting so much on it. But, well, you do you, because it's all going to crack. I will do me, and everything's going to look pretty in 10 years too.
As long as it's taken care of.
Take care of it. It's not going to break. Before we get into legit Q&A, because you guys are just with questions tonight, and I love it. It's great. To wrap up what we were talking about earlier with how much does it weigh for the wraps, negligible, honestly. Just take into consideration, and I'm not saying that, wrapping from the foregrip to the stripper is going to add so much weight. It's the fact that you're fighting the rod's function at that point in time. It's not the weight factor. It's the functionality factor, okay? Our art that we put on our rods should never hinder the performance of the rod. I don't care if you're putting marbling on it. I don't care if you're putting alcohol ink on it, a decorative wrap, feather inlays. I don't care what you're putting at it. I don't care what you're throwing at your rods, okay? Just do not hinder performance. That's all it comes down to. And yes, marbling is going to be a little bit more. I guess we're going to have to go through a marbling weight session, because now I've started marbling and I have so many examples over there what they can look like.
If it's on the PVC, you probably just cut it and peel it off.
Right.
It's got that release agent built into it.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna try that, or just weigh little sections of it, because I have plenty that don't have any on it, and I have some that have stuff on it, and just weigh that one little section and see what it weighs. Why not? We're already talking about weight on decorative wraps. Let's weigh out marbling too. If somebody comes to you with that, just send them to the Mudhole's website and tell them to go check out the journal, and then they can come back and have a chat with you later and see if they agree with the results, or if they want to do real life testing. And the real life testing is you get your blank in, you weigh it, and then you do what you're doing to it, and then you weigh it again. And in the grand scheme of things, whatever weight you add to it, as long as it's not like extreme, if the rod is balanced, you're not going to notice it. I go back to Steve Harvey's rods, because I had the twins, the gold twins. I didn't add that much weight to it with all the stuff that was on there. The leather, okay? The leather that I used, I had cork grips underneath of it in the name of keeping it super light, because I knew the leather was going to add some weight to it. And the leather that I tooled and painted, that's like a 4-ounce leather. Now granted, I skive off, which if you don't know what that means, it means I peel off some of the back of it so that it will lay a little bit flatter, and I can taper the edges and that kind of stuff. So I'm taking a little bit of weight off, but the end weight for that rod with a 12-inch leather grip and the rear, the real seat, the 6-inch foregrip, the Gaboon viper skin. I'm going to say it like that forever. It's the Gabon viper. No, it's not Gabon. It's Gaboon. Why are you saying it wrong? It makes my eyes twitch. The Gaboon viper snake shed and all the guides and everything that was on it. It weighed in a whopping 10.4 ounces. 10.4. A little over 3.5 more ounces than the Sukatus did.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had to add the weights to the butts to balance it.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody was like, that has to weigh 14 pounds. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It weighs 10.4. But thanks.
Not even a pound.
Not even a pound. So just keep that in mind. What we add to our rods, just make sure they're balanced and don't hinder the performance. All right, so let's open it up to more Q&A. I love this like rapid fire you guys got going on.
Hey, Jim.
Da, 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 da.
I was told under wraps just help with the action of the rod by slightly changing it, but also not quite enough to notice a difference. So I just use them for more of looks, I guess.
They do change the action of the rod.
They do.
They absolutely
Because anytime you do a solid under wrap under a double foot guide, you're creating a space, no matter how long, that blank can no longer go oval. It can stay circular. So it does change what happens to the blank, technically speaking.
It softens the reaction time in that section. So instead of a real quick, when it's just the fresh blank, now you've got one that's going to be just, no, it's not going to go, oh, woo, like we have been talking about in some of our previous episodes.
Oh, woo.
Oh, woo. It's not going to slow down like that, but you're going to have a little bit of dampening to the reaction time. And that's okay. You've got a guide sitting there. It has to dampen in that spot regardless, right? So whether you put the under wrap on there versus not, and once again, we're going to go into this testing thing where we're going to have to wrap a couple rods and wrap one that has a whole under wrap where you see it and it's pretty and it's in between the feet, and then wrap one that has the little hidden under wrap, or like I did with one that just went out the door, the spiral wrap one where you could see it just on the little bit of edges, which by the way is a pain to put epoxy on in between the little frames. Don't do that. Or just the actual wrap and see how they react. The only way you can do that is build 3 rods the exact same way, but wrap them differently.
Mm-hmm. Do you warranty your builds? If so, what is your process and for how long?
Yes.
It's pretty much, we don't have an explicit stated warranty. If something we did screws up, we're going to fix it.
I don't care.
That's no questions asked. Just if something we did screws up, we're going to fix it. If it is a blank issue, yield to the manufacturer.
And the manufacturer.
Whatever they decide. If it's something where, hey, they broke the blank and manufacturer says, yeah, it was a defect, here's a new blank. I mean, pay for the parts. We'll rebuild it.
And if it had
because it's no fault of ours, it's no fault of theirs.
If it had, let's say, worst case scenario, right? It had custom grips on it, had a decorative wrap, it had, whatever. The blank broke, defect, send it in, manufacturer replaces that. I'm going to ask the customer to send me the broke one.
Yep.
And I'm going to try to salvage as much off of the broke one that I can, especially if it's ridiculously custom grips that are going to take me a long time to replace.
Especially if they're leather and we can cut the seam and pull them back
The
off.
leather grips are easy for me to do because I just cut the seam and just stitch them back onto another one. I'm going to try to drill out the rail seat. I'm going to try to do everything I can to salvage said parts from the broke one. Now, if they destroyed it and it was by them doing it, that's
not
on
covered.
them. That's not on me. I'm not replacing
You
that.
snap the tip off? Sorry. But somebody comes to me 10 years from now and normal wear and tear has taken time and done its job.
I'll fix it.
We'll make it look better. We'll freshen up the epoxy, but it's not going to be something that's like, oh yeah, we're going to cover this for a lifetime and it's always going to look brand new. That's not happening.
And that also becomes the thing where you have to have that discussion with the customers that, hey, over time your epoxy is going to darken. It's going to get a kind of a amber tint to it. That is just how it looks when it's exposed to the sun. Make sure that if you start to see fractures in the feet or if there's cracks in the epoxy, you get it. You get back with me so that I can chip away the old epoxy and fix said epoxy. Take care of the build. Make sure you get ahead of anything that could possibly happen. But if they accidentally close it in a tailgate or snap it in their window or they high stick it and they do something ridiculous, I'm sorry.
You jump 3 foot off the bass boat and try to set the hook. I'm not warranting that.
I'm not
I'm
building
sorry.
a rod for you either. That's our warranty. But we just explain it, and we also, if somebody like Steve got the leather grips, hey, this is how you have to take care of them. This is what you got to do. If you're concerned about it, feel free to ship them back to me, and I'll handle it. You know.
Yep. But anything at that point is so like if it's something where it needs maintenance, so to speak, they're paying to ship it to us, and they're paying to ship it back to them.
Yep.
I'm not eating that.
Mm-mm. What about decorative design under wraps on guides? So do y'all think it matters, or is it personal preference on surf rods? That's personal.
Personal preference.
That's personal preference. I like to see some kind of decorative something under there, whether it's just a little band in the center, or that's just a personal thing. They can be solid. They don't have to be pretty. It's just a big space of a solid color. That's all you have to think about.
Yep.
And I've done it before. One of the ones I sent out recently has just a solid color under wrap. And the reason why I did that was to balance out cost between the decorative wrap and the hand painted grip that the customer got. And it looks good. It looks good with that solid color. And that's why I like near shore and offshore rods, less weight drama. That's why we are primarily surf builders.
Surf boat.
We do bass rods because that's where Wes started. And we do fly rods. But my happy is the surf rods, surf and offshore. Can you do a future episode about your people's shop setups? Would be interesting to see how we all go about it. I have to clean mine up before you can see it, but sure. But I like shop episodes. Maybe we can get the Southern Rod Builders to also contribute some shop photos.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a good one. Let me write that down. Good job, Duncan, giving me ideas for future podcasts. Also, a little friendly reminder while you guys are pondering some questions for us. The International Custom Rod Building Expo is coming up very soon. It's at the end of this month. It's February 28th through March 1st. We have a booth that's going to be there, the Decorative Studio, and there is so many other vendors that are coming where you can meet the manufacturers, talk to the people that are in charge, get products, get discounts on things. Cork is going to be there, EVA is going to be there, blanks, components, shrink tube, you name it, it's probably going to be there in some way or shape or form at some vendor's place. Epoxy, all that stuff. You can actually put your hands on blanks, ask questions, feel them, and be able to get answers in real time with the people that own the companies. And there's also seminars that are running, so you pay to get into the expo. Seminars are free. There's also the Learning Center, which is geared towards more of a hands-on kind of learning situation. So in the Learning Center, Wes is going to be doing decals. I'm going to be teaching about how to do EVA inlays with the Cricut. I'm also teaching a marbling class. I'm also doing a decorative wraps class. And I have a panel in the seminars along with Michael Ward and Tom Kirkman on themed rods and the things that we have come across with that. So it is a very fun weekend, very educational. I love it. It's a place that I actually fell in love with rod building. Wes will tell you, he drug me to it like 13 years ago.
High point.
16 years ago when it was in a high point. And I loved him so much that I went with his grandpa and him. And his grandpa tried to get us to stay in a hotel that had roaches in the room.
That was honestly not his fault. He just waited too long to get a hotel room.
I love it though, because we walked in and we were like, nope, we're going to Walmart, and I wouldn't even sleep on the beds. We purchased a whole bunch of blankets and sleeping bags, and we made it work. But we didn't stay there the next night.
No,
we went home.
We went back home the next day.
But I actually went there and really thoroughly was like, yes, this is pretty awesome. So you should definitely come. What is the best way to incorporate cremation ashes in a freshwater rod build? There's a
split grip.
There's a few ways that you can do it. Depends on if the customer wants to see them or not. If they are indifferent, you can always put them in a little sealed container and put it inside of the butt, and make sure you glue it in place so it's not bouncing around in there. You can also put it on some of the butt caps. You can separate it and just get your mind out the gutter. You can put
ashes in the butt.
You can put resin on with the ashes for the flat spot of the butt, and you can also mix it with epoxy and place it on the rod. Just remember that they're going to be a gray tint, and be careful.
Don't sneeze.
Don't sneeze. Don't breathe while you're working with it, and only mix in a little at a time. It's kind of crazy you asked this question. We were watching somebody else do add ashes to a rod, and he put it with epoxy, and I think it was a pigment because it was very gray.
No,
it was
how
all
much
ashes.
ashes he used.
Okay, he used a lot of ashes, so it turned like this kind of sand gray kind of color. He used it on the split grip, and then the leftovers that he had, he put it in a little silicone mold for a keychain for later. So
I don't know if it's keychain or necklace, but
I thought it said keychain, but regardless, he poured it into something else so that none of the ashes were left behind. So
or thrown away.
yeah, we don't want to throw any pieces of somebody away. So that's where I would suggest either in a sealed container that's placed inside the rod and completely glued so it doesn't bounce around or it will come loose at any point in time, or mixed in with the epoxy. You can also do it in the grips. You know, if you've got cork, you can, what's the word I'm trying to find? You can drill out little channels to like pour the resin into. You can also do that with EVA.
I wonder if you could mix it with the wood glue.
You can mix it into anything. It just depends on, you know, how it reacts with it. I mean,
Somebody try that.
you could possibly mix it with the wood glue and glue the cork rings together with it.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
Then you'd have lines.
Yeah, but then you'd be sanding part of that off, and that's sad. Ugh. I don't know.
You just get creeped out by remains.
I don't like it. It's it's a soul that obviously has moved on, but it's what's left of the memory. And like, I would have a really hard time knowing that I was sanding part of somebody off while I was trying to get the grip down to, I don't know. That's just a mental thing. Anyways.
But are you sanding like their foot or?
Stop. I don't need the specifics of it. No. Ugh. Wood glue would dominate the color of the ash.
I figure it might, but
If it's not about adding the color, like the color and just the fact that, you know, that person's holding the grip together and they get to hold hands the whole time and the sentiment's there, then that might be what they're happy about. You could always dye it, I guess. I wish I knew how to use my Cricut. I'm finding it really difficult to use. I think I need to find a better brand of cutting blades. Okay, Albert, which Cricut? Have you got the Maker 3? What kind of blades are you using to cut with? We can dial this in real quick right now.
Air Explorer 2 for the Cricut.
You got the wrong Cricut. You can't use that one. Let me verify. I'm pretty sure you can't use that one. You have to use what's called the deep knife blade. There's only 2 of them, unless they made another one. Cricut Maker, Cricut Explorer. Oh, I'm wrong. They've updated Explorer Air 2. I apologize. You have to get the deep point blade, the blade that you have to use. If you're not using that blade, then it's not going to work. And also, settings wise, you have to be cutting it on, I cut mine on the leather setting, and I only let it run for 3 full passes, and I cut it off. See if that helps. Savannah, I want to try and use my laser to cut the EVA. The laser, depending on what setting you have it at. If you have it too hot, it's going to completely just seal those edges in, and it's going to make that little burn scar. And that burn scar will not absorb glue. Therefore, you won't be able to get them to glue together. If you can figure out how to get it to lightly mark it and cut through, which goes back to...
And depending on what laser you have.
Might as well be hand cutting it at that point. But it also depends on the laser. I saw you have the nifty little, like, you know, rotating 360 little razor. You got more money than I do. I can't afford that right now. You may be able to dial it down and get it to work. But if you burn the EVA and you create that little scar where it melts it together, you're not going to be able to glue it together. What bandsaw blades cut EVA the best? Mine hangs up when cutting white but not red. I use the Timberwolf blades, and you have to have something that has 10 TPI or higher. Timberwolf doesn't offer anything in the size that I need for my bandsaw any higher than 10 TPI. Michael Martin says if you get the 25, he has a completely different bandsaw than I do, that it cuts really, really smooth. Now, the kicker with that is that some colors are tougher than other colors. White is notorious for being super thick and super dense and super hard to cut.
Because of how they have to color it.
And it's the coloring process. Black is also usually a pretty tough one too, but try to get one where it's at least 10 TPI or higher. Would a jigsaw work for cutting EVA? You can use a jeweler saw to cut it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that hard to find something to cut it. It's just the accuracy of said cut. And then said blade, how rough it makes it. Because when you're trying to glue 2 pieces that have been roughed up back together, you'll get them to glue together, not a problem. But if you go to turn it down and you might have a little bit of a wave happening where it glued up. You can cut it whatever you want to, for the most part. I've cut my inlay sheets with a jeweler saw before. Macho Man Randy Savage, that whole image was cut out with a jeweler saw. And Beetlejuice was all cut out with a jeweler saw. But that's sheets, not blocks. But I have cut blocks with a jeweler saw just for funsies, if you will.
Funsies.
Funsies time. Yeah, that's what I thought, David. It's going to be kind of jagged. I mean, you could cut it. It's just you're not going to have a very smooth seam. Every time I cut EVA with size D, one side of it flat, on the other side is concave looking. With the thread, it's probably how you're holding it. There was, in Dale Clemens' advanced rod building book, he was talking about cutting the tubes of the EVA with this little, he created a handle that was basically a X-Acto blade was the main part, but he also had attached 2 other pieces to it so it would cut in even circles whenever he was dicing it. Something steady like that would prevent the thread from potentially curving as it went down. Or you could even, if you're really good at gauging it, you just use the X-Acto blade, to do it. Any more EVA colors in the works? So, John, I am taking my blocks. I have colors in my EVA inlay sheets that I don't have in my blocks, and so I need to, and vice versa. So I need to expand to where they all match, so every sheet can be matched up to the blocks and stuff. But there are some colors that I am trying to dial in for what the market would probably want, and also kind of what I want, because I want to expand on the pinks, a lighter and a darker. I want to expand on the reds a little bit. The blues I've got, other than like a sky blue, I got them pretty much done, and the purples need more. So there'll be more additions to be able to do some really pretty shaded grips. It's just going to take a little bit longer this go run because I'm trying to play catch up on inventory cost. That's why you should buy my stuff. Keep buying my stuff. Keep supporting me so I can keep bringing in more colors. That would be great when you have them in both forms. I think so too, because I have a really pretty like light maroon color, and that olive green is perfect for like an army rod, but it's in the sheets. It's not in my blocks. So I've got to get them to match up. And like, I've got that pretty turquoise block, but I don't have it in my sheets. And I use turquoise a lot for my inlays, and I'm like, what am I doing? So I got to get them matched up, expand both lines. Oh, don't forget, if you need EVA, we've been talking about it. If you need the EVA blocks or sheets, I keep pointing over here because this is where the sheets are. But they're not. I need to have a pile of them back here so people can see them. Anyways, if you need some, go to threadcentral.net. You can also get any of my decorative wrap courses there. You can also get the one and only current EVA using the Cricut with the sheets tutorial that I have on there to make inlays. I made a graffiti one. I show you how to do that, and I'm so excited because I'm doing another one because a customer requested one. Yay me! It's my favorite thing to do.
It's a set too.
It's a set. It's going to be awesome. But
twins, Basil,
but inverse twins.
Mm-hmm.
Inverses. So they're going to be, I'm excited. Anyways, if you also want to get some, sorry, I get very excited about some of my projects. If you want to get some rod building apparel, go to thedecorativestudio.com. We have our shirts for Decorative up for to support the podcast. We also have them for the Southern Rod Builders and also the Women Rod Builders Alliance group. So you can get t-shirts there. There's also some with some funny sayings on it. Wes designed a apron in particular that's hilarious. I need to order one because I need to wear one.
You do need to wear that.
I've just got that one, but the youngest has got paint all over it now. So, and also there's some hats and some other stuff on there, but that's just our site where you can purchase rods that we've got, which obviously for you rod builders, you're not interested in buying our rods, but that's for other people, and grip sets that I have that are currently available that you can purchase there, or our apparel. So check it out. Best color preserver. They don't make it anymore. And I'm so sad because I am down to like the last drops in my container. I know that there's one that's in testing, and I've tested it. And if it's this, it needs to come to market. It's just struggling to get there. But as of right now, I have to use Flex Coat, and it's not bad.
It works.
It works. Does what it's supposed to. How about the double-sided guide question? He's talking about that rod where it had the guide on the top and the guide on the bottom.
You can use 2 different types of reels, and you can also take the bend out of the rod when it forms. That's why one side has a guide only on one side, and then it like starts double down here, because you can rotate it, but you can also rotate it to take the bend out of the rod by using different reels.
What were those blanks made out of?
Wood, usually.
So I thought.
And most people stood them in a corner, and they would take the bend, and then they would take them out and fish them opposite. And
Can you touch on the sheet thickness for new Cricut users? No. Just kidding. Cricuts take anything that is 3 millimeters or less, and honestly, it needs to be a max of 2.9 millimeters.
yeah,
That's it.
3 is like
3, it will
50.
jam up. It will jam up every time. So if you're in this situation, it took me a long time to freaking figure this out. If you start to run it and it goes into your machine and it comes back out and everything's fine, and then it starts to cut the pattern, and then all of a sudden it goes doop, and it freezes. Sometimes it'll flash red. Flashing red obviously means I am mad at this. I don't want to do this anymore. But sometimes it just stops. And it won't flash. It just sits there. And then you're like, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to be cutting? I didn't give you a break. You know, I didn't pause you. What are you doing? Feed it out. You start over. It stops in the same spot. And it's not flashing red telling you something's wrong. It's just sitting there. It's waiting on you to figure out what's wrong with it. Your EVA is too thick. Okay?
Yeah. And there are some random ones you will get from us that
They are a little
it
thick.
will be a little thick.
Take a hand
and
sander
just
and get it down. I have to do
get
mine
your palm
too.
sander out. And
I try to measure them before I ship them out, but obviously sometimes, depending on inventory, there is some that are just going to escape and they're going to be out. Hand sander, palm sander takes,
Belt.
or belt if you're really good at not nicking your fingers. But I don't do it that way. I do the, I don't trust that. I do the palm
stick your tongue
sander,
on it.
and I just sand it for like a minute or two, and it's fine.
But we do try to keep as much of those as possible
Yeah.
here for us to have to screw with.
I'd rather put myself through the labor than you guys go, it's not working. Like I had to sand the red thinner. Yeah. Like some of them are thicker, some of them not. I have been discussing with my supplier to make sure that they are cut no thicker than 2.9, considering that most of the people that are buying them are using Cricuts. 3 is great when you're just doing them by hand and you're cutting stuff out, whether it's with a jeweler saw or with, X-Acto blade, because it gives you just a little bit more depth to sand. But 2.9 or less is where it's happy, and that's what it likes. And it'll tell you real quick if it don't like it. Also, while we're talking about Cricuts, every once in a while, sharpen your blade. Guess how easy it is? It took me 2 years to figure this out. Take it out of the little thing, ball up some tinfoil, stab it. When you're having a bad day in the shop, go sharpen your blade. It's the best thing possible. If you're having a day, just stab it. And then guess what? Your blade's sharp. And now you can cut some stuff.
Yep.
So if you notice that your edges start to get a little tweaky and kind of chewed up, sharpen your blade. Which model do you use again? The Maker 3. Maker 3.
Keep your eye on Amazon and you'll get a bundle deal.
So when we watched it for a while on Amazon, the machine by itself is like $500. But we got it around...
It was right around Black Friday 2 years ago.
And
2 years ago this Black Friday.
yeah, I haven't had it very long, but it's done some work. But I got it as a bundle, and it came with a couple pads. It came with all the tools. It came with markers and different blades that I don't really use them. It came with vinyl, and I think that was it, and the machine. And it was all like $300 and something, $330 or $360.
It ended up being $375.
One of those, yeah, with shipping. Great freaking deal, right? Because it's a big, boom, starter kit. So I tell people, watch it on Amazon, because they put it on sale as a bundle a lot, like 3 or 4 times a year. So if you're looking to upgrade or whatever, now obviously the blade was different cost. And obviously places like Michael's and Hobby Lobby, Walmart's selling them now if you get them shipped and stuff. Just check out all your stores and just price it out so you get it at a better cost than $500, because $500 for just the machine is ridiculous, because it didn't come with any pads. It doesn't come with any extra tools. It's just the machine. Like, don't do that. Get a bundle. Different brand threads for wraps or decorative. Favorite brand? So my favorite brand to use for a decorative wrap is Madeira all day long, because there's so many different colors and so many different shades of the same color. It can really make the wrap just come to life. When it comes to doing my tie-offs or my guide wraps, I particularly stick to Pro Wrap. I mean, there's generally all the colors I need within that, but I also have used Fuji. So my whole thing is just get whatever works for you. I like Pro Wrap. I like Madeira. That's usually my go-to for 90% of my stuff. All right, guys. and we're going to wrap it up. So with this discussion tonight, with me just showing you some of the examples that I've experienced, and also Chris doing his write-up on the journal. Obviously, check out the journal, read it for yourself, so you're not thinking I'm lying to you and took screen grabs from somewhere else. But it just shows that thread and epoxy is generally not adding that much weight overall to a rod. So if somebody wants to, get in a discussion with how decorative wraps add too much weight, but they really don't. And obviously you're going to have that whole group of people that are going to be performance only, and you're not going to try to talk them into a decorative wrap, because you're never going to get them to get a decorative wrap, because they have it stuck in their head that the decorative wrap takes away from the performance or the lightness of it. This whole trend right now of building the lightest rod possible just baffles me, because if it's the lightest rod possible and it's tip heavy or it's butt heavy and you go to fish it, you're going to be exhausted by the time that you get to 3 hours with this rod. When if you had one that had a wrap on it and weighed just 0.45 more ounces and was well balanced, you'd be able to fish it all day with no problems. But it weighs more. I love the mindset of some people, and you're not going to educate them, and that's okay. It's just their opinion. We're not here to change opinions. We're just here to present facts, and you take it from where it is and run with it. Don't run with it. Ignore it. Whatever you want to do. But overall, when it comes to teaching our customers, when we start talking to them and they go, hey, I really want this, this, and this, just make sure they understand that we can't put a wrap from the butt to the tip. We can't do marbling from the butt to the tip. We can't have a wrap running from the foregrip or even the hood of the reel seat all the way to the stripper on a bass rod or a fly rod. That's just not okay, because you're hindering the performance. As custom rod builders, we have to be better than factory builds. And if we're hindering...
Not just prettier.
Not just prettier. We have to perform better, because they are paying us. I hope, this is a whole nother touchy subject for Wes and I as well, but they should be paying you more than they're paying for a rod they would be getting at Walmart. Or
and you should be putting
Pro.
out work worthy of being paid more.
Not just, I'm getting there, and it's fine. You're getting there. Get there. You're going to be fine. People that had a whole part of my little discussion groups here tonight, and I love you, and I'm not picking on you guys. I'm just using it as an example. If there's one little thread out of place, that's not who we're talking about. If there's just one little thing where a thread rolled away, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people that are on their second build, selling to the public as custom rod builders. They don't have their threads covered with epoxy. They don't have their wraps packed at all. There's gaps to be seen. They look almost like they were trying to wrap fishnets. Like, that is what it is. There's glue lines. Guides are crooked. There was no static test done, because when the rod flexes, you can definitely tell that there's a sharp point when the line is on there. We're talking about all the wrongs. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about, oh my God, I have one little thread out of place. I have threads that get out of place too, because the enemy came from within, and the little elves in the shop decided to roll it out, even though I color preserved it in place. But educate your customers, tell them what you can and can't do because of performance, because they have to perform better, they have to look better, and they have to do better than what they could get in the store, because they're going to cost more. Thread on guide foot versus just epoxy only for strength, as in how much strength does the thread actually add? Weird question.
Guide will pull out of just straight epoxy if you're talking about normal 2-part epoxy, but there's ways to do it without thread, just not with 2-part epoxy.
I saw that whole cost chat on Facebook and thought, oh boy. I mean, I saw that too, and actually that's not even what I was thinking about. But yeah, John, that whole discussion was just baffling to me. I saw somebody that I know exactly what they're doing for their work, and I have seen their work, and they do amazing work, and they're underselling themselves so much, and that's what sucks. Now, is everybody going to be doing this as a business and expect to be able to pay their bills with said business? No, they're doing it as a hobby, they're doing it for fun, whatever the case may be. I'm not here to tell you that you're doing your job wrong or you shouldn't be. I'm just telling you that your time is worth something. You should not be working for less than minimum wage.
Just thought of something. Go ahead.
What do you do if a wrap sets too long and the threads start to relax? Do you start over?
Mary cuts it off and starts over. Don't even let it lie.
I would cut it off and start over. Like, if it's loose in the middle, it's gone. If the edges are just starting to kind of come loose, but I'm almost done with the wrap, it depends. but 90% of the
How much-
time I'm gonna cut it off.
How much of a bulge does it have?
Because that it will work its way through the wrap the more that you keep packing and stuff. So it depends on where it's at in that stage. Never heard of thread relaxing. How long does it take for that to happen? So Dinkus, what happens is a couple of different things. Okay, so as we pull our thread coming across our tape anchors, if you happen to be somebody that puts the popsicle stick down like I do, if you cross the popsicle stick, it comes off at a different angle than it does if it goes straight to the blank. And then as you pile more thread on top of it, along with more layers of tape, constantly adding it, it is constantly pushing down on the original threads, right? It's adding pressure, all right? As that happens, if you have, whether you got it on one end or you got it on both, as it compresses it, it stretches the thread. And eventually the thread relaxes. And when it relaxes, because it's had enough and it's like, nah, I'm going to pull out of the tape anchor a little bit, it comes loose. And you'll notice that there's little bubbles, or the thread is just kind of just doing whatever it wants to around the tape anchors. If you're halfway through the wrap, at this point, when you're seeing it starting to come loose, you're on a time clock. You got to get it done like that sitting, and there's also potential that you're going to lose it in that sitting too. But as you continue to keep wrapping, those little bubbles as you pack, even over here at the ends, will start to work themselves through the wrap. And it sucks because sometimes that wrap's going great and you got to just start over or slice it or cut it or whatever the case may be because it came loose. And I have tried everything in the 15 years that I've been wrapping, pulling it backwards and like trying to tape it down or trying to tape it off or trying to wrap thread around it to keep it from coming loose. Nah, it's gonna just keep working its way through. Anyways, but that's just it. Like, our wraps don't cause that much weight. Have fun with it. That's what we're here for. Make it pretty, make it function, make it fish. That's in the story. With that being said, we hope you guys learned a couple things and enjoyed some of the little side rants, because sometimes we get on those sometimes tonight, and most nights. And don't forget to check out the ICRBE. You can get information on the website, icrbe.com or .net. And you can also buy your tickets online. That's a new thing this year, so you don't have to stand in that long line to wait to get into the expo when it opens up at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I really hope to see you. And if you're not going to be there, then come the next year. I spent over $300 today getting stuff bought for the expo, and it's going to be really cool for the booth, and I'm super excited about it. And I'm probably not going to tell anybody until the show, but we'll see, because I might just get super excited about it, show you anyways, because I've got this whole thing planned out in my head, and it's going to look awesome.
No, you can't tell them about it. They got to come see the
so
booth.
Excited. You got to come see me to come see the booth. We hope you guys have a great night. Hopefully you learned something, and we will chat later. Bye.
Toodles.